Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're setting the stage for an absolute heavyweight matchup in the world of economics. We're looking at two wildly different extremes of market structure. On one side, we have the undisputed heavyweights, the massive corporate giants. And on the other, a vast sea of individual players just trying to go with the flow. By putting these two side by side, we get this incredibly clear picture of how market power actually works out in the real world.
So here is our tale of the tape. We'll be covering environment and marketing outlays, understanding demand geometry, market roles and returns, barriers to market entry, and finally, the final verdict.
Let's meet our first contender, the titans of oligopoly. An oligopoly is a market structure defined by having only a few firms selling a product. And because there are so few of them, there's intense competition and just a massive amount of interdependence. Think about the automobile industry or maybe consumer electronics. The competition here is incredibly fierce, specifically because the market is so concentrated. One firm's gain is strictly another firm's loss. If one car manufacturer suddenly starts offering massive discounts or, say, free insurance, you better believe the others are going to react instantly. They're locked in this high-stakes game of chess where they absolutely have to watch each other's every single move.
And in the opposite corner, we have the price takers of perfect competition. This is a market structure with a massive, almost uncountable number of producers. And what exactly are they producing? A perfectly homogeneous product. That word homogeneous is absolutely crucial here. It literally means the products are completely indistinguishable from one another. Agricultural commodities like wheat or rice are your classic examples. A grain of wheat from farmer A is totally identical to a grain of wheat from farmer B. Because there are just so many sellers and the product is exactly the same, absolutely no individual firm has the power to influence the market price. They just have to accept whatever the broader market dictates.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. Environment and marketing outlays.
The contrast in the seller environment here is staggering. In an oligopoly, you've got a concentrated few. Massive firms dominating the landscape. Because of this, the oligopolist is forced to constantly look sideways at their competitors, trying to anticipate their next maneuver, mostly because every single decision sends shockwaves through the industry. But in perfect competition, it's like a vast ocean. The perfectly competitive farmer only looks straight ahead at the global market ticker. The number of buyers and sellers is so incredibly large that no single participant can influence the market. I mean, an individual wheat farmer produces such a tiny fraction of the total global wheat that doubling their output, or honestly stopping completely, wouldn't even cause a ripple in the global market supply. And this environment completely dictates their spending habits. For the titans of oligopoly, selling costs and advertisements are basically a matter of corporate life and death. Because products might be slightly differentiated, think about the distinct branding differences between Coke and Pepsi, they spend billions on TV commercials, price-cutting campaigns, and aggressive marketing just to steal market share from their few rivals. But the price takers in perfect competition, they spend absolutely zero on selling costs. Why on earth would a farmer pay for a billboard to advertise their wheat when it's perfectly identical to the wheat grown by the thousands of farmers down the road? Buyers aren't going to pay a premium for identical grain, so there's simply no need to advertise.
Section 2. Understanding demand geometry.
Now for the oligopoly, the math gets a bit complicated. Back in the late 1930s, an American economist named Paul Sweezy developed something called the kinked demand curve theory. Because these few firms are so highly interdependent, they face a really strange dilemma. Imagine you own a major airline. If you decide to raise your ticket prices, your rivals will just happily keep their prices cheap and steal all your passengers. So raising prices? Totally out. But what if you slash your prices? Well, your rivals are terrified of losing their market share, so they're going to instantly match your lower price. You don't end up gaining a bunch of new customers, actually you all just make less money. This creates price rigidity. Prices just tend to stay stuck exactly where they are.
And this brilliantly illustrates how that sticky pricing works. The oligopolist faces an indeterminate, kinky demand curve, where average revenue is greater than marginal revenue. It's shifting, it's reactive. The perfectly competitive firm, on the other hand, faces a demand curve that is perfectly elastic. Perfectly elastic simply means that buyers are infinitely sensitive to price changes. It's just a straight, horizontal line running exactly parallel to the x-axis. Because these smaller firms can sell all they want at the prevailing market price, but would lose literally all their customers if they raise the price by even a single penny, their price equals their average revenue, which perfectly equals their marginal revenue. It is pure, unfiltered mathematical simplicity.
Section 3. Market roles and returns. The roles these firms play couldn't be more opposed. The oligopoly firm operates as a strategic price maker. They have significant market power and independent pricing policy, and they dictate the terms. The competitive firm, by contrast, is completely submissive to the market. They are price takers. They have zero independent price policy. If the market says wheat is $5 a bushel, well, the farmer sells it for $5. If they try to charge $6, buyers are instantly going to go to the millions of other sellers offering it for $5.
And those roles directly dictate their bank accounts. Because oligopolists have market power and can manipulate supply and prices strategically, they are able to pull in abnormal, or what economists call supernormal profits, even in the long run. Abnormal profit just means they're raking in cash far above and beyond what's required to keep the business running. Perfect competition, however, is a relentless equalizer. Because everyone is selling the exact same thing at the exact same price dictated by the market, these firms will only ever clear normal profits in the long run. Normal profit is a specific economic term meaning a firm makes just enough to cover all their costs, including the opportunity cost of the entrepreneur's time, just so they can stay in business, and absolutely nothing more.
Section 4. Barriers to market entry.
So the crucial point is that those heavy, structural barriers to entry are actually the only reason the oligopoly can maintain those massive, abnormal profits we just talked about. If the barriers fell, the profits would vanish in a heartbeat as new players rushed in. But things like massive economies of scale, strict patent rights, and just the sheer billion-dollar cost of competing against established giants preserve the oligopoly and keep newcomers locked out. In perfect competition, however, the doors are completely wide open. There's completely free, unrestricted entry and exit. If wheat farming suddenly becomes highly profitable, new farmers jump in instantly, increasing the overall supply, driving the market price back down, and immediately wiping out any of those extra profits.
Section 5. The final verdict.
Let's move to and see how this builds out our ultimate 6-point matrix. Notice how the Titans side forms this closed loop of dominance, while the price takers side forms a continuous loop of submission to the market. The Titans' concentrated environment leads directly to heavy ad spending and strategic price making. That market power yields abnormal profits, which they fiercely protect with heavy entry barriers. Meanwhile, the price takers are trapped in a vastly different loop. Their massive numbers and identical products completely strip them of any pricing power, leaving them with perfectly flat demand, zero marketing power, and free entry that guarantees they're only ever going to scrape by on strictly normal profits.
But here is the ultimate twist to leave you with today. Economists actually openly admit that perfect competition is largely a myth. It's an ideal market structure that is incredibly rare to find in the actual real world. It mostly serves as a baseline for academic comparison. So if pure competition is essentially a fantasy, are the dominating titans of oligopoly just an unavoidable natural evolution of modern capitalist markets? Are we literally destined to always buy from the few rather than the many? Think about that the next time you go to the store. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the structures around you.